So we had a blinding start with Monday yesterday. Will Tuesday be as good? I come in through my usual route on the Westway and exit off down Baker Street. I don't have to go far before I get my first job, and that's this family who wishes to go up to Stockley Hall, Prince Albert Road. Stockley Hall is always quite prominent because I can just see the signage. Like, it's that Miami-esque font, Stockley Hall, and that wonderful Art Deco building with those curved corners. Super simple. We just point ourselves northbound on Baker Street, buses and taxis only through this point here. We go around Regent's Park, up Park Road, comply by the St John's Wood Circus, leave it by Prince Albert Road, and left into Stockley Hall. We drop them there. From here, I generally always go back via Park Road. I want to be coming down like Baker Street direction again. As it's school holidays, London Zoo might have been a good option, and hindsight's a fabulous thing, I know. Luckily, I pick up on Park Road, and this lady wishes to go to King's Cross. So from where we are, we just take a left into Hanover Gate, and we use Regent's Park just to cut the corner off. Come out via York Gate, gets onto Marylebone Road. As of course we get to Euston Road, we have to go over the overpass and deal with that awful cycle lane, which luckily has now been removed, and then along the Euston Road, turn left into King's Cross and drop off. I'm hoping my luck will be in and that the King's Cross rank will be empty. Unfortunately, it's not. There is quite a good amount of taxis on that rank, and it doesn't really seem to be moving that fast either. As I leave, I do have a couple of people who wish to get in my taxi.
On the other side of the road, there's a big queue of taxis. You have to go on that side. Or over there, look.
Now, as it's Tuesday, I'm thinking I'm going to go try my luck in the city, as we have the TWATs, you know, the Tuesday, Wednesdays and Thursdays. That's generally how it works in the city now. No one's really there on Monday, and Friday is an absolute ghost town. Coming down Gray's Inn Road, I turn right onto Holborn by Staples Inn Buildings, and I pick up these two people who wish to go to the Royal National Hotel. From the grasp of the conversation, I think it's their first time in London. They're very much like, how far away is that? How much will it be? They all seem a bit kind of, rabbit in the headlights, kind of confused. So I let them know that the Royal National Hotel's not that far away. It's close to Russell Square and the British Museum, and it's probably going to be a maximum of £10. It's really easy. We just go to High Holborn, we do a right into the Kingsway, Southampton Row, go around that top bit of Russell Square, right Bedford Way, and then into the Royal National Hotel. Unlike yesterday, I'm not as lucky to get an on-off job, because that doesn't always happen. I'm feeling a little bit peckish, and I see that the charging point at Russell Square is free, so I quickly pull up and get a bit of charge there. I have to go all the way to Cambridge Circus, that junction of Charing Cross Road and Shaftesbury Avenue, before I get this gentleman hop in who wishes to go to Waterloo. Now on this junction, it's a nice easy run. We just go left into Charing Cross Road, forward into St Martin's Place and come down the east side of Trafalgar Square, through King Charles I Island, along Whitehall, forward into Parliament Street, nice and clear for some strange reason. We get ourselves a left into Bridge Street, setting us up for Westminster Bridge. It's all relatively clear today. We just go around the back entrance into Waterloo and set him there. Nice easy run. Still some taxis on the rank, so I think I'm going to go for a little bit of a hunt. Even though there's a lot more people on the streets, more people walking around, it definitely feels a lot slower in terms of availability of jobs. Today, it's definitely a bit more of a struggle. I head to Westminster Bridge and I pick up this tourist family who wish to go to Tower Bridge. We're pretty much at the south of Westminster Bridge, but it's not really south, it's the east, because Westminster Bridge actually runs west to east. It actually runs horizontally across the map, not vertically, because unlike popular belief, the River Thames actually has quite a few bends in it. I use this neat little slip road by the Park Plaza Westminster. This is for buses and taxis only. It just cuts off that corner around York Road. Forward York Road, over the IMAX roundabout, into Stamford Street. We get that little bit of traffic build up, which I mentioned yesterday I didn't want to get caught in when I was dropping at the Ibis Styles. Forward into Southwark Street, and then we bear left into Borough High Street. Now the only thing to consider here is that we need to get along Tooley Street. I want to drop them at the south of Tower Bridge, like Tower Bridge Road. You can't turn right onto Tooley Street, so the only way to do it is actually wiggling through Borough Market. It's quite convoluted, and if it's on the weekend, this is really, really difficult to do. But Borough High Street, Montague Close, underneath London Bridge, past the London Bridge Experience, past St Olaf House, and out onto Tooley Street. The name Tooley Street is actually a corruption of St Olaf. I don't know how St Olaf becomes Tooley Street. After King Olaf, who was a Norwegian king who was an ally of Ethelred the Unready. Now Ethelred the Unready, and with the help of King Olaf, actually helped reclaim London from the Danes who had inhabited the city in the 11th century, supposedly pulling down London Bridge. We go along Tooley Street, we get that little left slip road into Queen Elizabeth Street, and then from here the traffic usually backs up quite badly. So I let them know that Tower Bridge is literally just there, we're not going to get much further, so they happily hop out at this point. You might remember how yesterday I said that because it's school holidays, it might be worth trying out some of the touristy places. So I decide to go over to the Tower of London, straight over Tower Bridge, around Tower Hill, down by that little bit of Byward Street, Lower Thames Street, and I turn left. Luckily for me, there's no cabs there, but there's no passengers waiting either. There is some people at the front there, but I think they're waiting for an Uber. As I pull up, but they don't really seem to acknowledge my presence. I wait there for a little bit before I get this family who wishes to go over to Avonmore Road. It's one of those jobs that I just know at this time of day, it's just going to be crap. At the end of the day, I kind of let them know, like, as soon as I get in, yeah, it's going to be about 45 minutes, best part of. Because you have to go right through central London to get there. And, you've got busy things like Kensington High Street, etc. All at this rush hour kind of time of day. When you draw it up on a map, it basically is a straight line. So we just go along Lower Thames Street, Upper Thames Street, Victoria Embankment. The only issue with this is actually getting off of the embankment and onto, say, the Palace Roads to continue this traversing west. Northumberland Avenue is always a bit heavy because the lights on the King Charles I Island aren't that great. I skip around by the Civil Service Club and exit out onto Whitehall. It can just cut a bit of time on those traffic lights. From here I'll go through Admiralty Arch, along the Mall, up Constitution Hill, all pretty good so far. Round High Park Corner, a little bit busy, down into Knightsbridge, and we go out along Kensington Road, past Royal Albert Hall, and surprisingly Kensington High Street is pretty clear for this time of day. We just carry on going all the way out. Avonmore Road is basically opposite the Olympia Exhibition Centre. Takes some time to get there. They're pretty pleased. It was just a long journey. That's kind of it at the end of the day. I of course have to come back into Central. I have no joy along the entire length of Kensington High Street, so I go down Palace Gate to get myself onto Gloucester Road. And luckily I'll grab a job there on Gloucester Road. They want to go to the Mandarin Oriental. It's only a short run, but pulls me straight back into another good area. I just get myself back up onto that Kensington Road and towards Knightsbridge that way. Now as I drop off, there is a private hire driver on the taxi rank in front of me. This is quite annoying, where they'll park on taxi ranks in busy areas like Mayfair and Knightsbridge. And the way of looking at this, it's like prohibiting me from earning money. It's no different than if you own a shop and there's just someone standing in the doorway. It's quite a good rank because there's lots of people walking around in this area or people coming out of the Mandarin Hotel. I've got this guy who's got his little Frenchy dog who wants to go over to Embassy Gardens. Now as I leave here, I really want to be heading down Sloane Street. But Knightsbridge being an incredibly busy road, it's not always easy to be able to spin round at this point. I do manage to get in at Seville Street, going past the Park Tower, and that pulls me into Lowndes Square. En route, I can hear the dog is actually like proper like snorting through its nose, and I know that obviously the smaller dogs like pugs and that do this. The gentleman actually lets me know he was previously in an Uber trying to get to Embassy Gardens, and the Uber driver actually kicked him out. I said, why did he do that? What happened there? He said, well, your dog's making a little bit too much noise. I can't concentrate. He kicked him out. If you can't concentrate with a little bit of noise like that, then I don't think you should be driving in London. But there we go. Go around Sloane Square, Lower Sloane Street, Chelsea Bridge Road, over Chelsea Bridge, Queenstown Road, Queen Circus, left into Battersea Park Road, forward 9 Elms Lane, and that new Embassy Gardens development is just on the south there. After dropping, I decide to head to the Iron Lung, because we'll know what happens there. I drive through the Victoria area, but I don't really have much luck, so I'm just thinking, right, Knightsbridge has been good to me so far, let's go back to that area. I managed to find a space on the Harrods rank. It's amazing how much difference it can make from Monday to Tuesday. I didn't touch a rank at all on Monday, but here on Tuesday, I'm struggling to find a job and I've got to jump on a rank. And the job I get from Harrods? Well, we're off to the Hard Rock Hotel. It is the old Harrods to Selfridges shuttle bus. So from here, just need to get ourselves into Park Lane. The only difference is I'm going to be going around Marble Arch to set in Great Cumberland Place. As we approach, Great Cumberland Place is closed. I asked the lady, is it okay if I drop you here on Oxford Street? And she's absolutely fine with that. As I'm pretty much pointing down Oxford Street, I think, well, I might as well go have a little look along Oxford Street. About halfway up to Oxford Circus, I get this job come up and they want to go to Harrods. Here we go with the shuttle bus again. So I turn around, I use New Bond Street to get me onto Brook Street. This runs parallel with Oxford Street, and then from here I can get into Grosvenor Square.
Oh my word.
And neatly lead out onto Park Lane, round Hyde Park Corner, into Knightsbridge, and then down into Harrods. Usual rubbish with Brompton Road, a little bit of traffic here, so I drop them off a little bit before Harrods. I have a good look behind me to ensure there's no drivers who might want to get on the rank, and luckily for me, there is a good amount of space on the rank at Harrods. It's sometimes how it goes in the cab. I know some drivers who don't like to rank up in London at all, like only if they can see that that rank might be spinning. For me, I just kind of mentally calculate it. If I don't join that rank, how long am I likely to be driving until I find another job? It's eventually my job on the rank, and these people want to go to the Benihana restaurant. I think it's American, isn't it? Where, you know, you have a chef cook up all your food in front of you. I ask him which one is it, because there's one on Piccadilly, Sackville Street, and there's one on the King's Road. I think the one at Piccadilly has now since closed down, and I'm thinking he's probably going to go to the one at Chelsea, and then yes, he confirms that with me. Now, from where we are, as the crow flies, it's actually quite a difficult route to kind of run relatively straight. So I run it all the way down, I peel off into Brompton Road and turn left at the Bibendum to go down Sloane Avenue. It does look a bit sort of jagged, but because of where we are, if I was to go round the back of Harrods and use the back streets, that would equally be just as bad. It's one of those runs that isn't going to look nice or feel nice just because of the way the streets are laid out. I know imperatively I want to get to Markham Street, because Markham Street is basically bang opposite Benihana. It then means if Sloane Square is busy or the King's Road has got a lot of traffic on it, I'm dropping directly onto the point. I park up on Ediston Place just for a quick breather and a snack. It's a nice quiet street, so it means I'm not going to get bothered, or anyone who wants to get in my cab's going to come up and hail me in this location. I move off and I drive up the side of Bibendum, Lucan Place, and I get this job, these people who wish to go to the Thistle at Marble Arch. I mentioned in a previous video, this used to be called the Amber Marble Arch, and some people still refer to it as that. I reckon it's probably going to be one of those nicknames that sticks for some time. There's not really a lot of ways I can run this. It is that same old corner again. Brompton Road, Scotch Corner, Knightsbridge, Park Lane, and you either go round Marble Arch or you get yourself into Park Street. Before the pandemic, one option, if you're quite close to it and you know there's not much traffic there, is to run it through the park, use North Carriage Drive, and that neatly pulls you out by Marble Arch. The only issue is that, just like South Carriage Drive, North Carriage Drive has been shut since the pandemic. I don't even know what they use it for now. It just seems to be a place where they just park lorries there. It's basically a trucker stop from what I can make out. So I run them up there, I get in via Brook Gate, forward up a Brook Street, and I get a left into Park Street. Park Street does sometimes build up, but it is kind of easy to run it this way. Park Street, you go forward, get a left into Bryanston Street. That's the one, Bryanston Street, and then set down on left. I've already had my luck on Oxford Street, so I head down Park Lane, and the concierge of the Grosvenor House Hotel is hailing me down. This family just wants to go to the Chesterfield Arms on Hertford Street. Sometimes it's these super short runs that can catch you out, but it's not too bad. We just run it down to the old Park Lane roundabout, leave it by Hertford Street, we turn left, and bosh, the Chesterfield Arms is there directly in front of us. As I drop off, I get an on and off job. This gentleman wants to go over to Charlotte Street. We have a nice chat all the way there, and he lets me know about a few hotels and developments that are happening in this Mayfair area. It can be a little bit difficult to work out how to get into Charlotte Street because you have to come from the top. So realistically, the only way in is going to be Mortimer Street. So to do this, I get us out onto Berkeley Square, leave by Bruton Street, get it into Conduit Street, and left into St George's Street. This is that little street that runs parallel with Regent Street, meaning we haven't got to sit in the Regent Street rubbish. We go around Hanover Square, leave that by Holles Street, go around Cavendish Square, leave by Cavendish Place, and that forwards into Mortimer Street. Run that all the way along, over into Good Street, and we turn right into Charlotte Street. He just wants to be dropped at one of these restaurants here. As it's kind of restaurant time, I'm probably not best hanging around the Charlotte Street area because this is when people go to restaurants, not necessarily come out of restaurants. Obviously, it's just a general rule. So I get myself onto Oxford Street. Heading westbound along Oxford Street, I have this hand go up. Now they want to go to the Duke's Hotel in Mayfair. Now the way I always remember this is because I grew up in Essex, and a few towns over in Chelmsford, there was a nightclub called Duke's. Now this is one of those kind of old school nightclubs with multiple floors, proper sticky carpets and stuff. So whenever someone says Duke's, I've mentally placed that nightclub as the hotel there in Mayfair. That's just my little memory trick for it. Here I get a left into Berwick Street, neatly pulling me off Oxford Street because Oxford Circus can build up a little bit. Berwick Street is actually the front cover of Oasis's, sounds weird, second album, What's the Story, Morning Glory, was taken. Not on Knoll Street. That'd be handy, wouldn't it? Knoll Street, Noel Gallagher. So we do a right into Knoll Street, forward to Great Marlborough Street, and I get down Regent Street, setting us up for Conduit Street. Now I've opted for this because I want to get to Duke's Hotel via Old Bond Street. So a little bit of a wiggle down Savile Row and Burlington Gardens. But what this does is it neatly brings you out onto Duke Street, St James's, and you can get St James's Street this way. If you go beyond and go into Berkeley Square, you have to sort of go beyond St James's Street by using Berkeley Street. You know, I'm just being a bit pedantic here, but this sequence of streets usually runs quite neatly, whereas you can get stuck in a bit of traffic at Berkeley Street. I drop them off, have a little bit of a hunt on St James's Street, and I'm thinking you're going to get someone for sort of like going home. And yep, I managed that on Piccadilly. This guy wants to go to Abercrombie Street at Battersea. Battersea is super simple. The only deviation I take for this route is the fact that Grosvenor Crescent is shut. Usually I do Grosvenor Crescent, I come in via Belgrave Square and I wiggle my way across the Eatons because you can cut out a few traffic lights that way. The two options I've got is like I did in yesterday's video. I went through the Piccadilly underpass and you come in via the Berkeley Hotel, Wilton Place, and then wiggle your way around Belgrave Square. Today, I just opt for something a little bit different, which is going down Grosvenor Place. We get a right onto Buckingham Palace Road and follow that all the way out. Buckingham Palace Road, bear right Pimlico Road, that forwards into Royal Hospital Road. Out onto the Chelsea Embankment. We get the left into Albert Bridge. Follow that all the way down Albert Bridge Road, right onto Battersea Park Road, past the Lighthouse Pub, and then we get into Abercrombie Street that way. I'm not amazing on these little nuanced streets, so it's always worth having cabbies, mate, at your disposal to know, how to set these or what particular ends they are. There's sometimes like little bits of one-way streets running through them. So if I see that on the map, I'll just say to the customer as I get near it, are you at this bit of the one-way street or this bit? Because they might just say, look, drop me on the end of the one-way, or they might want to go through the whole of the one-way, whatever. It's a long old jaunt back from Battersea, and it's not until I get to near the Lanesborough Hotel that I see the concierge hailing me down on Hyde Park Corner. These two get in and they start giving me a postcode for NW1. I always ask for a bit more specifics on this. We've all had it where someone gives you a postcode and it just dumps you in a random area, or you'll be at the wrong end of a particular street. So I ask them specifically and they say it's Robert Street. Robert Street, nice and simple. It just runs adjacent from Albany Street, connecting Albany Street to Hampstead Road. Easy. From here, at this time of night, I'm just going to be using big roads. So up Park Lane, Upper Brook Street, up Park Street, all the way up into Gloucester Place because that flows nice and neatly. We get a right onto Marylebone Road, all the way along just after Regent's Park. You get the left into Albany Street, up Albany Street, and then turn right into Robert Street, set down on left. I've got a few options from here. I could possibly go look at Euston Station, or I'm thinking I'm going to go down Tottenham Court Road. I think a lot of cab drivers are still kind of scared of using Tottenham Court Road. During the hours of 7 AM till 7 PM, Monday to Saturday, you can only go up certain sections of it. But after 7 o'clock, you can go up and down the whole length of it. So I decided to go down it. It still feels a little bit weird, and luckily for me it pays off. There's a gentleman here who wants to go over to Prescott Street. Touch, right over to the city. I asked specifically where on Prescott Street, and they are after the Premier Inn. So run all the way down Tottenham Court Road, we get that left into New Oxford Street, and we work our way over into the city. Drake Street, Red Lion Square, Proctor Street, left into High Holborn, forward into Holborn. Now, years ago, before the City of London sort of screwed around with some of the streets in COVID, you'd run it all the way along, you get St Martin's the Grand, go around the back of like the BT headquarters there that's being redeveloped at the moment, use Angel Lane or Angel Street. It was taxis and buses only, can't get there at the moment. And then you go along Cheapside. Cheapside very neatly sets you up for Bank Junction. You just go all the way through, we're in the Thorpe Street, Lombard Street, Fenchurch Street, Lloyds Avenue. You can work your way into that Prescottish Street area there. Fortunately, I have to sort of divert a little bit. So I come down via Warwick Lane, Ava Maria Lane, and that pulls us out by St Paul's Churchyard. St Paul's Churchyard, Cannon Street, and then you have to then come back up. It's amazing how one little restriction can really affect your route planning and subsequent driving thereafter. Once we're through Cannon Street and we get ourselves into Eastcheap, I've got to pull ourselves back up onto Fenchurch Street. The whole way there, I'm thinking of kind of the best way of setting this, because Prescott Street is actually one-way westbound, meaning we've got to get it from the east. So I kind of have to do a lot of up and down to get there. I then come along, look at my map because I don't actually know what I'm talking about. I go up Mansell Street, right Alley Street, right St Mark Street, to then get ourselves onto Prescott Street. This neatly cuts out the traffic lights. You really do have to think quite far ahead with some of these routes. You can have implications on the street before that, which then has an implication on the street before that. It's like a knock-on effect, if you will. I have a bit of a hunt through the city. I feel like a criminal by going towards Bank Junction, but as it's long gone past 7 PM, I can very neatly do a forward from Leadenhall Street into Cornhill, where I pick up this gent who wants to go to City Thames Link, just on Ludgate Hill after St Paul's Cathedral. Nice, simple run. As soon as I drop there, I have these couple of ladies who jump straight in my cab, on and off. They actually let me know they've been looking for a cab in the city for about 20 minutes. And this is kind of the unfortunate state that nighttime London has become. There's this kind of tipping point at night when people can't get Ubers, private hires or taxis. And it's really sad to see, because there's people out in the street, maybe bar staff, lone females, vulnerable people, who are just trying to get home, but they're sort of out stranded on the streets trying to find a taxi, a private hire, whatever, just to get home. You know, I say, why is this? Why is there hardly any taxis in this area? It's kind of a perfect storm, really. Firstly, a lot of cabbies don't really hang around the city area because of a lot of the changes and restrictions in the city. mean that it's quite difficult to navigate. Or if someone wants to go to a particular location, you might be doing a lot of diversions to avoid the closures or restricted roads. So they just try and stay over the West End. It really is an effective deterrent of stopping cabbies from going there. You also have the aforementioned Tuesday, Wednesdays and Thursdays mob, whereby the city isn't quite as busy as what it once was. So there's not as much work over there as there would have been, say, pre-pandemic. Again, another incentive for people to hang out near the West End. Then you've also got the fact that Uber prices are more expensive and more unreliable than ever. There's less Uber drivers as well. There's less taxi drivers because there's less taxis on the street. A lot of drivers who've retired since COVID. So it's this kind of perfect storm, which means that it's great for me as a driver, but absolutely terrible for potential passengers in the cab. These two just want to go over to London Bridge Station. They specifically asked for the Tooley Street entrance. I just go along Cannon Street, we get a right into London Bridge, left into Tooley Street, which again is exclusively for taxis and buses only. I dropped them off there, and amazingly I managed to pick up a viewer of some of my YouTube videos. It's always pretty amazing when this happens, because I know that a lot of you do look out for me whilst I'm out driving, and I've probably made some of your lives an absolute misery because you just want to come to London and enjoy yourself. But little do you know it, you're looking at every single taxi going past thinking, is that Tom? Is that Tom? Now they say West Harding Street, and I actually can't pull it. I haven't got any frame of reference. I've not been given the city. They've just jumped in at Tooley Street and said West Harding Street. Imagine the embarrassment, you know, you've met Tom the taxi driver from YouTube and he doesn't know where it is. Depending on the area that you're in or how someone says it, you know, they might say West Harding Street off Fetter Lane. Bosh, got it. Or West Harding Street in the city. Bosh, got it. So I asked for a bit of a clue and he says, right, EC4. Then it comes to me. Pemberton Road, Printer Street, Fetter Lane, that whole area. It then lights up the map. Bosh, away we go. We get started talking in conversation, and if I'm completely honest, it's one of those routes where I kind of go into autopilot. I don't really think much about the route, and I'm sort of midway through conversation, going over London Bridge, and I'm thinking, is this the right way to be doing this? But it's amazing just how much, you know, driving a cab and from doing the knowledge, how much type 1 brain it is, in that you don't really need to think. It just kind of comes to you. Forward into Fleet Street, right into Fetter Lane, and you're right into West Harding Street. Easy as that. Now at this point, I'm east. I'm thinking it's probably going to be one more job than home. I'd be happy even if I got one east, just so it kind of says, right, your night, Tom, is over. One west would be even better. So as I come along Fleet Street, ready for the Aldwych, this hand goes up and the lady wants to go to Holland Park. Touch. Specifically, she's after Oakwood Court. Now I know at this time of night, all the theatres have cleared out, so I just use all the big and simple roads to get us there. And to be completely honest, it's pretty much the same route I did from Tower of London to Avonmore Road. The only difference is that we're already starting up high, through Admiralty Arch, the Mall, Constitution Hill, and bosh, bang it out onto Knightsbridge, peel right for Kensington High Street. At this time of night, it's a complete doddle. It's all clear. Get a right into Melbury Road, go past Michael Winner's old house on the right-hand side, and then get a left into the Oakwood Court, this top bit. Drop her off there, job done. That's Tuesday done. Not quite as busy as Monday, and definitely a lot more traffic, but you need a whole week to really make it work in the cab. How will the rest of my shifts go? Well, you can see those videos over here. Thank you once again for watching. See you all again soon. Bye-bye.